Once I understood this, it changed everything in my training in terms of the exercises I choose, why I do them, and gave me a better idea of how to really train to get jacked. So cool. Before I explain to you the punchline, actually fuck it, I'll tell you the punchline, then I'll give some back context so we understand the rest of the video, and then you can end up clicking off this video a new man because now you know much more. Okay, so the punchline of the video is, when it comes to getting huge, the goal is to use exercises that put us in the most mechanically disadvantageous positions. Okay, what does that mean? So look, for you to really understand, you need to understand that there's two main sort of archetypes of gym people. We've got the bodybuilders who train for muscle size. All they care about is how big their muscles are. Doesn't matter how they got big muscles, doesn't matter how long it took. All that matters is muscle hypertrophy for them. Then we got the powerlifters. We got the strength guys. These are the guys that don't care how they look. It doesn't matter how big their muscles are. All that matters for them is lifting the most amount of weight possible. So now that we've got these two people, the bodybuilders, what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to get jacked as fuck. We're trying to build the biggest shoulders possible, the biggest chest, the thickest arms. They need to choose exercises that put them in the most mechanically disadvantageous position, whereas the strength guys need to choose exercises that put them in the most mechanically advantageous position. Allow me to elaborate. So cool. Let's take the squat, for example. A strength guy would do a barbell squat in the low bar position so that when he squats down, he can use as much of his posterior chain as possible. He can recruit as much muscle as possible and therefore lift as much weight as possible. The bodybuilding guy, because he's trying to put himself in the most mechanically disadvantageous position, and I'll explain why in a sec, he wouldn't do a low bar squat. Instead, he would do a high bar squat. He would squat as low down as he can possibly get, with as much knee bend as he can possibly get, to recruit as much quadricep as he can possibly get. Now why? Well, for the bodybuilder, weight doesn't matter. What matters is the stimulus to the muscle. And I've spoken about this before, but stimulus is the only thing that matters. The amount of tension, force, and stimulus you can give a said muscle is how you're gonna grow it. Bodybuilders train muscles, strength guys train movements. So for the bodybuilder, if he's trying to grow his quads, he would choose the high bar squat as we've just established. He would go down slowly, he would pause it at the bottom, then he would explode up. Or even better, he might choose a hack squat, something that's stable, with weightlifting shoes so that he can get really deep. Or maybe a leg press with weightlifting shoes so he can get really deep. Because for him, all he's after is a good stimulus to our target muscle. The strength guy, on the other hand, they don't care about targeting a specific muscle. That doesn't matter to them. All they want to do is lift as much weight as possible, and they will use as much muscle as possible if they can. This is why the strength guy doesn't do a high bar squat with a pause at the bottom, because that's not going to allow him to lift as much weight as possible. That's not his most mechanically advantageous position. I'll give a very simple example with the deadlift. The strength guy would do a regular deadlift because he's trying to activate his quads, his lower back. Not activate, but he's trying to get his quads, his lower back, his spinal erectors, his glutes, his hamstrings. He's trying to get all of those guys to work together so that he can lift as much weight. Duh, he's a strength guy. The bodybuilding guy, on the other hand, he would do something like a stiff-legged deadlift, in which he keeps the knee bend to a minimal and all he does is hinge at the hips. Now, of course, this will still work very similar muscles to the deadlift, to the strength guy, but because his goal is muscle hypertrophy, because his goal is trying to get bigger hamstrings and glutes, this would be a much better choice for him because now a lot more of the focus is put on the hamstring and glutes. Hamstring and glutes play a much bigger role in completing the reps. There's a much bigger target on the hamstrings and glutes. So as you can see, this bodybuilder here has put himself in the most mechanically disadvantageous position so that he can grow his hamstrings and glutes. Now, how can one put themselves in a mechanically disadvantageous position? Essentially, this is all down to sort of your build. There are certain movements that just are better for others and won't work for other people because we're all built different with different limb lengths and body types. Like for example, with me, I can't do a high bar squat. Well, I can, but it's not the best option for my quads. Instead, something like the hack squat with my weightlifting shoes in which I go really deep, that's much better. So the way somebody can put themselves in the most mechanically disadvantageous position to grow the most amount of muscle possible would be, first, do exercises and movements that work for you. So if that means switching to a machine like I had to do for my quad movements. And number two, incorporate things such as pauses. Incorporate things such as the greatest range of motions you can. Incorporate things such as slow tempo eccentrics. All the type of things that powerlifters would never do. Why the fuck would a powerlifter do a slow eccentric on the way down? There's no need. That's gonna limit him. that's going to make him lift less weight. That's going to be a very mechanically disadvantageous position for him. And he's not after that. He's after the most advantageous position, the most advantageous way of lifting. So he ain't going to do no slow eccentric. No, he's going to just go down and up as quick as he can with the most amount of force. We're trying to increase the stimulus on a muscle. So yeah, bro, that was just some like food for thought for you. So that next time you go gym, you understand that, look, bro, if you want to get jacked, you need to put yourself in positions that are super deep, super range of motion, and that generate the most amount of stimulus. So something like a low bar squat for quad growth just wouldn't be the best. Instead, something like a hack squat or a super deep leg press with a pause at the bottom, that would be much better for your goals of getting fucking jacked. Now, look, bro, if you're still struggling to get jacked, firstly, I love you. Let me just make that clear. That was a bit random, but I do. And secondly, click the first link in the description if you want to hop on a free call with me, in which you also get my program. We can get to chatting a bit, get to know each other, and I'll help you build your dream physique in 20 or 30 minutes or less by answering all of your muscle building questions, everything from training, nutrition, diet. Bro, my last video titled, what did I title? It sounded like She Let Me Hit and I Wiped Her. That video low-key popped off. Like, that video low-key done well. Thank you for everyone watching it. Appreciate the love, man. You guys are the fucking goats. Let's grind now to 3K subscribers, and I'll catch you in the next one.